Good evening, and welcome to Empowered Minds with the Bridge Builder. I am your host, Ambassador Dr. Jacqueline Mohair, and I am super excited about our show on tonight. We have a full panelist of amazing guests, and they are loaded with heavy information. Our panelists are Miss Sherrie Washington, who is the Rockdale County Commissioner, Mr. Representative Billy Mitchell, State Representative of District 88. We have Miss Marlene Midget Fosque, who is Gwinnett County Commissioner. And we have Matilyn Jones, the candidate for Senate for District 45. How you all doing tonight?
Great.
I tell you, it is wonderful to have you all on here. You all are doing some amazing things in the community. And what I want to do at this time is I want you to just tell us a little bit about yourself. I'll start with you tonight, Representative Mitchell.
Tell you a little bit about myself.
A little bit about yourself. I know you have been in the General Assembly for a number of years. You have 2 children. You're married to an amazing woman who is a Delta Sigma Theta woman. So we know that you're doing some amazing things, and you're a lover of the community and helping and building people and impacting lives. So if you can, just share a little bit about yourself tonight. I know that you're the only gentleman on the panelists tonight, but you have a wealth of information.
Well, that's a good thing. And I, first of all, want to start off by saying thank you so very much for inviting me. I just wish my grandmother was alive to see this. When I was growing up, she used to tell me you're judged by the company you're keeping. And this is certainly good company. And so I'm grateful for this opportunity to give out some information. I'm just a humble servant. I've been in the General Assembly 18 years.
Wow.
Prior to that, I was on the Stone Mountain City Council, have served for quite some time. I'm the incoming president of the National Black Caucus of State Legislators. The National NBCSL is the advocating group that represents the interest of all the Black state legislators in this nation in U.S. positions. 40% of the current congressional Black Caucus members are former members of NBCSL, including the 44th U.S. president was a very active member of NBCSL. So I'm great to be here and be able to brag that I was on the stage with some of these prominent folks on the panel.
I tell you, that is truly amazing there, Representative Mitchell. And I tell you, we look forward for great things to come from you, and congratulations on that honor.
Yeah, well, you know, of all the biggest honors I've had, I've been bestowed an honorary doctorate degree by yourself, and that's one of the biggest honors that I have. It's on my wall at the Capitol.
Well, congratulations, and it was certainly a pleasure to honor you with that, because you are well deserving of that. Well deserving of that. I'm going to come back to you. I want to go ahead and introduce Miss Marlene, Commissioner Marlene Fosque. If you could tell us a little bit about yourself tonight. I know that you are the commissioner for my district. You ran in 2018 and you won, and you're doing some amazing things for the county. So can you share with us a little bit about yourself tonight?
Absolutely. Thank you again, Dr. Mohair, for giving us this opportunity just to speak and to share. Well, you know, my name is Marlene. I'm originally from North Carolina, and I say that because I have a lot of people from Facebook from North Carolina that's hopefully watching. I do have one son, Mario, and my daughter-in-law. They both serve in the Air Force, and I am a new, well, at least a grandparent for a year and a half. I was
Congratulations.
elected. Yes, I'm very, very proud. I was elected in 2018, and I call it when Stacey Abrams was running for governor, and she was pushing down the ballot, and I was one of those fortunate ones that the people of Gwinnett County elected in to say that I am the first African-American district commissioner voted into to become a commissioner in the 200 years of Gwinnett County.
Wow. Amazing, amazing.
Everything I do, I guess, is breaking down barriers. And so I appreciate that. I was also a poll worker, and I wanted to share that, and also a poll manager. And that's so helpful since we're going to be speaking about voting. So I'm
Yes.
glad to be here today, and thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. The next person I want to speak about is Miss Sherrie Washington, who is the commissioner for Rockdale County. So she's been in this arena for a number of years as well. Miss Washington, if you could tell us a little bit about yourself tonight.
Sure. Well, first of all, let me say that I am so pleased to be here with Billy Mitchell. You know, he's one of my faves. Anytime that I feel that I'm with Billy Mitchell, I feel like I am doing the things that my grandmother used to say you do on high cotton that I can't say live. But my name is Sherrie Washington. I am the first African-American female county commissioner for Rockdale County.
Wow,
I am,
congratulations. We have a lot of firsts on here tonight.
I know, and you know, it's amazing that we're still having first in this day and age, but that speaks to voting, and the fact that the first are women, African-American women, speaks to the power of the African-American female vote. But that's for another segment. I have to plug, since we're talking about grandchildren, you know, I think I have the best grandson in the history of the universe. So he's 2 years old, and definitely the apple of my eye. I am an attorney. I have had my own law firm since 2007, and I have a general practice that keeps me very busy. As a matter of fact, I'm working and talking at the same time. So I'm just glad to be here. I'm honored for you to have asked me, and I hope that I can impart any wisdom anywhere that I can.
Thank you. Thank you. We're honored for you to be here tonight.
Thank you.
And our next guest is Miss Matilyn Jones. She's running for the Senate in my district, District 45. What a pleasure to have you on here tonight. I see that you are a native of New Orleans, but you graduated from the Gwinnett County school system. So Gwinnett County is certainly not a stranger to you. So if you can tell us a little bit about yourself tonight.
Thank you. I'm so glad that I'm to be here with you, and I'm so glad you're one of my constituents. That's exciting. Yes, I'm Matilyn Jones, running for State Senate District 45, which is located in northern Gwinnett County near the Mall of Georgia and the surrounding areas. And I'm really excited to be here tonight. I'm originally from New Orleans. I moved to Norcross my freshman year of high school, and I graduated from high school and college here. I worked for President Obama's campaign after teaching school at my former alma mater. So I taught social studies at Norcross, and then I worked for President Obama's campaign here in Georgia, then in North Carolina. And we moved to Virginia. We were there for a while. I worked for DC Public Schools in the Office of Special Ed. Then I worked for my church for a couple of years as my pastor's assistant. Then I went back to the school system, moved to Ohio with my husband's job for a year and a half. And here we are back in Georgia. I have two boys. One is 8 and in the 3rd grade, and one is 4 and in pre-K. Okay. And it's been an interesting 9 weeks. Right. But they are my whole heart, and my husband Daryl, he's a sweetheart too. And so yeah, I'm really glad to be here. There's a lot of good work to be done, and I'm looking forward to this conversation.
Thank you. Thank you. It's an honor to have you all on here tonight, and thank you all for taking time out of your busy schedules to be on here. Mpowered Mondays got started a few years ago, and this year is the year to revamp and relaunch. But tonight is about empowering the people. And tonight we're going to talk about the importance of the vote. We know that we are in a critical time right now, and there are a number of people still that have not registered to vote. And I want to ask the question to you all as it relates to voting. What can we do to really get people to the polls and to get people registered? Now, October the 5th is the last day for registering to vote. So I want to ask if someone would pick up on that question.
Well, Dr. Mohair,
Yes.
I am a member of a couple of different organizations.
Yes.
And one of the organizations that I am a member of is Top Ladies of Distinction. And we have a When We All Vote initiative that is transpiring now. And so each of the chapters has been mandated to come up with different ways that we engage voters and that we educate potential voters.
Mm-hmm.
So we have several things that we're doing with that initiative, but one of the things that we're doing is that we are going to go to the people and get them registered to vote. We're going to go to the barbershops. We're going to go to the nail salons. We're going to go to the beauty salons and just ask people to get registered to vote. Every chapter of Top Ladies of Distinction is supposed to register at least 25. If you know me, 25, I think I can do better than that. So I'm at least do 26, but we're going to try to do even more than that. So that's one of the things that I think that if we all could collectively say, you know what, let me put an hour into this. Let me put 2 hours into this. Let me see if I can get 10 people registered to vote, 5 even. Then we could get more people registered to vote, but it goes beyond getting them registered to vote. It's okay, I registered you to vote, but let me get that phone number so that I can harass you during early voting, on election day. I need to make sure that you vote. So I think that if we are serious about it, I always say, you always put your money where your mouth is. Time is money. So you put your time and money where your mouth is, and you go to the people that you know are historically not going to vote, and then try to get them registered. I wish that I had the gumption to go to some of these male establishments and get people registered to vote, because I think that we would do well there. You want to go with me, Representative Mitchell?
You know, I'll go anywhere with you. Yeah, and this is absolutely. You know, if I may say, I'm going to tell you, you know, it's fortuitous that we have all women panel, with the exception of myself, of course, because you women truly are doing some great things. You know, the #1 voting demographic in Georgia is Black women. They vote more than any other demographic in the state. And I will tell you, when Stacey Abrams ran for governor, she really was cheated. You know, she was running against the current Secretary of State. I could tell you how they purged so many voters on the eve of election. I can tell you about a number of things. She truly was cheated. However, even with that said, in DeKalb County alone, there was 100,000 Black men who were registered who did not vote. Stacey only lost by 53,000 votes, 1.4% of the vote. All over the state, it was something like 250,000 Black men who were registered to vote who did not vote. Women are voting at over 70% of the registered voters in Georgia. Black men are less than 50%. If we can find out a way to motivate Black men to go to the polls, we certainly would have different outcomes. And so I'm going to blame you women on that, because you women have an amazing influence over men. When you're dating them and when you're marrying them, you have to tell them, look, you know, I can't be with you if you don't get up and get out of here and go vote. We have to find a way to get them. And I will say, as the incoming president, that's going to be an initiative of mine. We're going to partner with the NAACP, Reverend Jackson, Al Sharpton, to find out why Black men are not motivated to go vote like they should.
Can I tell you another initiative that I'm doing with that in that regard?
Yes.
So during my election, my past election that I just won, I realized that Black males were not voting, and we're out here protesting because of their lives being disproportionately taken. So I partnered with some community leaders here in Rockdale and Newton County, and we're actually going to do a 1,000 Black men march to the poll.
Wow.
It is
Wow.
going
Love
to,
it.
hopefully it's going to be unprecedented and historic.
Mhm.
We've been meeting every week to get it together.
Mhm.
We're going, the march is symbolic, of course, at honoring C.T. Vivians,
Mhm.
honoring John Lewis, honoring Joseph Lowery, but marching 1,000 Black men so that they can collectively vote in 2 counties. Is the goal is to have their presence, get the men excited about their vote counting and getting them out to vote. So I'm super excited about this initiative.
Oh, wow,
We're just
Wow,
getting
that's
it
amazing.
out. We just got the flyers done yesterday, so you all should be hearing more about it. It's going to be October the 24th
Okay.
on that Saturday early voting. If you know anybody in Rockdale and Newton counties, we will be marching. In Rockdale, we're marching from Wheeler Park over to the early voting site, which isn't very far. Like I said, the march is symbolic. We're assembling at 8 o'clock and the polls open at 9. And then in Newton counties, we are marching from the old jail, which is downtown, over to the early voting place. Once again, assembling at 8 o'clock and the polls opening at 9. So that's something that has been in my heart, especially now that I do have a grandson. He will be marching at 2.
Wow.
And so, I think that Black men need to have something to get excited about, something to gather around, and hopefully this will be at least a catalyst in that regard.
I think that is just absolutely amazing, and I commend you on that.
Thank you.
Absolutely. 1,000 men to the poll. That is amazing.
I'm going to call you, Sherrie, I'm going to steal that idea for all the metro counties. We're going to get you some resources to see about expanding that statewide.
Let's go.
We'll be in touch.
Please come on. I want it all.
Wow.
Let's go.
Thank you.
That's powerful.
Thank you, Representative Mitchell, and please include Gwinnett in that. I will definitely have some men to contact you, or if you contact me, then we will make sure that all of us are included, because I think that's huge.
That is huge.
Thank
Wow. Amazing.
Absolutely.
That is powerful. We really need to get out and vote. What about the people that are migrating here? And what I mean by that, I can relate as far as growing up, knowing about voting, working with my father in the community, making sure that individuals got to the vote. But it's once I graduated college, moved to Dallas, Texas, didn't know no one. And at that time, I only participated in the vote for the president, but I had to run all over the place, right? But I want to say that, what do you say to those individuals? Because I'm finding out that there are a lot of people that have moved here that have not registered to vote.
I know one of the things that I do is I point them to register to vote at the .sos, the Secretary of State sites, .ga, and just show them. It takes a few minutes to either show them, to encourage them to go out to the MVP site, to www.mvp.sos.georgia.gov, where they can look to see if they are registered. But we can encourage them. They can get registered via their driver's license. They can now go to the new to our website and everything like that, to the state website. But I honestly just show people quickly how quickly it is to register on your iPad, on your phone. But it's very, very simple to do. And it seems like we are getting, at least I know I'm receiving so many texts from so many people that's pushing us to vote. So I think it would be hard for people not to know, but we do know people who have not registered. So we need to keep, just pushing that and promote that even more.
Yes, I agree. And even the ones that are in the state that have moved, say from Gwinnett County to Rockdale County to other, or even in Gwinnett County and moved to, say from Swanee to Beaufort. And a lot of times those people think they can go back to their last address and register or go and vote.
Well, one of the things that we tell people again is to check. You can check at the MVP site exactly where you're supposed to vote. It'll tell you your precincts. It'll tell you exactly what seat, everything, you know, where your
Mhm.
districts are. And then you can go and re-promote that, because that's the best way to check to see if you are even registered. But if you don't want to do that, you can check in Gwinnett County. You can even go to our Gwinnett County election site, and you can get information from there too. And there's different ways that you can vote. But first things we got to do is get you registered before we can go into the method of how to even get your application, or how to apply to get your absentee vote or anything like that.
Why is the vote so important in this season?
I think we all want to answer that one. Matilyn looked like she was about to burst, so.
Go ahead, Matilyn.
I mean, I think it's just important anyway, right?
Mhm.
Obviously, it's super important anyway why we're all here.
Mhm.
But I mean, someone asked in a group that I'm in, you know, what do you tell someone who does, you know, they're not sure about voting, and the argument about our ancestors doesn't resonate with them? And to me, what resonates with me is that we work really hard for what we earn, and it's important to have a say in who's going to spend our money. That's how, you know, and these laws, we're all responsible for following the law as a part of citizenship. And so it's really important to have a say in who is writing these laws.
Exactly.
And so, you know, it's more so that we're all going to be subjected to the decisions that are made, regardless whether you vote or not. So why not take advantage of the opportunity to contribute to the you know, and influence who is actually in the seat making those decisions? And so I think, you know, it is important to make sure that your voice is heard and who the decision makers are. We don't have to agree on every policy or every detail or how we spend every dollar, but I think it's important to be able to try to trust the people and know who the people are who are going to make those decisions that we all have to, you know, live with.
And I just want to add that to vote is to use one's voice, and to use one's voice is powerful. It shows that you care. It shows that you care about your local, your state, or your national levels of government. It shows that you want to be involved, and that you're not letting somebody else speak for you. See, when you don't vote, that means that somebody else is speaking for you, and you didn't have a voice in that. So you have to speak for yourself, and that's one way you can do it, just by voting. It is so important.
I tell people, you're not just voting. Forget the president and vice president. Just forget them for a second. We just lost a major Supreme Court justice.
Yes.
We just lost, and then think about not just the president and vice president, but they fill a cabinet. So if you want school reform, then you need to think about whose ideas and values best align with your ideas on education reform. If you are concerned about chokeholds, then you know the Attorney General and the Department of Justice, that's key in how we move forward in that sector. So you're not just voting for the president and vice president, you're voting for the fabric of this country when you vote in any election. So those are the things that we also need to be cognizant of when we are voting. Like I said, just if you don't like the president and the vice president, you still want to find people who most closely aligns with your values on other things.
And I agree with that. Can someone talk about, because I get this question where people say, why vote? My vote don't count. You look at the popular vote. Can someone talk about that? You know, just the breakdown of the Electoral College and how that worked. Go ahead.
I'll raise my hand for that because I used to be a social studies teacher. My undergrad degrees in political science, and you know, I think this is the bottom line. It's math, and math wins every single time. Even in electoral math, your individual vote contributes to whether or not your person wins the state or not. So even in electoral math, when the candidate has to win states, your individual vote is what determines whether or not the state is red or blue. And so it's just math, and nobody can argue with math. And so I think that a lot of the misunderstanding about how the process works is because of social studies. and a lack of emphasis on civics and prioritizing social identity in social studies. I think I'm personally, one of my priorities is to connect with the state superintendent and talk about what that curriculum looks like statewide, because our kids leave not really understanding how fundamental this is, their civic social responsibility as citizens. And it's not their fault all the way. It's just that it needs to be more formal, the voting process and how it works and why it works, and the math part. So that by the time they, get 17 and a half and can register, this is very common for them, and they have a common understanding, just like they have a common understanding of times tables, of times tables or the periodic table or whatever else they learn, throughout the schooling.
And to add to that too, really, I wish it was that the president would be elected by the popular vote. As we know that they're not. It's basically by the electoral votes. We know the popular vote was there because when you think about the election with Hillary Clinton, that she had the popular vote, but she still didn't win. So we have to make sure that the electors are chosen, as we know, people chosen by their state parties prior to the general election, and they are the ones who cast the vote for president on that first Monday after the first Wednesday, I think in December. But the bottom line is, if we were to change the electoral process and allow the votes to be, the president to be elected by the popular vote, I think there would be a big difference in who's chosen for president.
And I agree with you. I agree with you all on that. What are your thoughts regarding voter being suppressed, our votes being suppressed, voter suppression?
So when you say voter suppression, are you asking the things that people are blatantly doing to discount our votes? Are you asking, do we believe that it's live and well and we need to come up with a strategy to combat it? Is that the question?
I'm saying both. We need to come up with a strategy and, things that are being done.
Right.
Okay.
So go ahead, Dr. Mitchell.
I will tell you, there's no question there's voter suppression. However, as indicated before, we have the ability to vote in numbers too large to suppress. And we have to take some responsibility for that. I will tell you, in the last primary election in some urban communities throughout the state, we had people waiting 8 hours in the rain to vote. There were people who arrived at a time when they was not able to cast their ballot until well after midnight. There were precincts in urban areas that did not have enough voting machines, and there were precincts in suburban areas that had more than enough voting machines. So we've been able to counteract those measures by putting together a task force. There's going to be a technician at every polling place in the state come November for when machines break down. There's going to be, they're paying poll workers now almost twice as much as they did previously. They've increased the numbers of polling locations. So there's all kinds of resources that were put in to help the Secretary of State to prevent those kinds of problems. But I will be quite candid with you. There's going to be others. During the presidential election, almost 3 times as many people are going to come out to vote as did the primary. I think people are really motivated, so that means it's going to be even crazier. So I would suggest that we vote by the early voting period or absentee ballot. A lot of people don't trust the absentee ballot, but we have an advanced voting period that you can go and vote as you would on November 3rd. We need to get out there, and as I say, our cry is going to be vote in numbers too big to suppress.
And I agree with Representative Mitchell. And one of the things and the challenges that we have in Gwinnett, though, is that we have to have ballots that are both in English and in Spanish. And that's because of the Federal Voting Rights Act, where Gwinnett is required to send Spanish language material voting materials to our voting citizens. Our challenge is that not everyone, even though we think everyone have access to like broadband and they have access to the computers and things like that, they may not. And we found out that there's some areas who may not have that. So we can't just rely on the internet and think that people can go to the Secretary of State's website and just, print it and ask for an absentee ballot. It was what part of us or part of the governing body wanted absentee ballot to be sent to every registered voters, and that didn't happen in Gwinnett. But like I said, there's other ways where they can actually call the elections office and we will print out a ballot and send to people. But we really have to make sure that we get out there and we talk about the different methods that you can utilize. You can use, like Representative Mitchell said, we got absentee ballot by mail. We have advance in person. We also have, I'm an in-person voter. So on the day of elections, I'll be standing out there, but I'm gonna go 6:30 in the morning.
Right.
I'm gonna go and be in line, but I'm gonna be out there. But we also have in Gwinnett County 23 ballot boxes, election ballot drop boxes. We have 15, this will be the first time that we're using our libraries. And so we have 15 of those drop boxes at libraries. And then we have the other 7 at a satellite and 1 at our headquarters. The point is that we want to make sure people have many options leading up to election day if they do not want to be like myself and thousands of others being in person in the line waiting to vote that day. But we have to make sure that we have options out there for people to vote.
And I agree with that. What is being done in regards to voter fraud? You hear some that are saying vote twice, and then you hear that if you vote twice, you go to jail. So let's talk a little bit about that.
We don't want anybody to vote twice.
No, we don't.
That's for sure. Don't do that.
Do not do that.
The reality is voter fraud is almost a misnomer. It rarely happens. As a matter of fact, in our community, it's hard enough to get people to vote once, let alone twice. Usually when we hear this notion of voter fraud being committed, it is by those who wish to put in some draconian measures to keep us from voting. Because the reality is, it is such a way down that it is very difficult for you to commit voter fraud. And the only one instance of mass voter fraud was done by the conservative Republicans in North Carolina. Occasionally there are people who moved out of the state, and there have been those who voted in the state they were from and the state they're going to. But this notion of mass voter fraud is just non-existent.
Okay. We need to talk about it. I'm glad you guys have said what you said, and we say it again: do not vote twice. Do not. What do you think is at the top of the mindset of voters?
You speaking of what issues?
The issues, correct.
I feel what I've seen is homelessness. As far as for homelessness prevention, I've seen food insecurities. I've seen jobs. I've seen the concern with COVID-19 and how does that impact my family. I've seen education, of course. So it's so many different issues that's out there, but a lot has to do with our economics as far as for jobs and what I can do and where I can go. And of course, in Gwinnett County, transit is another issue that we have at the top of our ballots, on the top of our minds on challenges we need to fix.
I say COVID-19 and all of the things that I think COVID has touched on every aspect of all of our lives. It's had an economic impact. It's definitely had a social impact. It's had an impact on education across the board. It's had an impact on mental health. It's had an impact on the social, civic issues. COVID is definitely running the world right now, and because it is affecting how we do everything that we do. So I really, and as someone who is governing and had to govern through it, I know that we are still managing COVID. We're still giving out information on daily COVID numbers, or even where you can go get tested, making sure that people are in compliance. Rockdale County defied the governor's orders, and we implemented a mask ordinance. You know, we're still dealing with all of the effects of COVID, and I think COVID is what is on everybody's mind, and the management of it. And I think that people are going to take that to the poll in one way or another.
I will say to my colleague who's going to join me in the General Assembly and the Senate soon, and all the elected officials, I think one of the most important, in addition to all the brilliant answers that they have said, Dr. Mohair, I think one of the things that we have to realize is that we were placed in the positions that we are for such a time as this. The reality is that we have so much inequity, inequality in our laws and in our economic system, in our jobs, that we need to be able to put into the system a correction to where there can be equality. Much of the Black Lives Matter and defunding the police is a result of the inequalities that the average person could easily see. And we need to put in place a system where it is equal, where folks can see that it is just. Let me give you just a perfect example. This past legislative session, we just passed medicinal marijuana in Georgia. When I first joined the legislature, I'd never thought that in the Bible Belt we would be able to do something like that. They could not have passed that without the help of Democrats, namely Black Democrats. So as the person that committee that came from and the lead person on that, I said, well, if you need us to pass this, then we, for the first time in the history of Georgia, they had to guarantee a certain percentage of the contracts and the economic opportunities were going to Black people. They had put University of Georgia, Georgia's flagship university, to be the educational institute over that. We said, wait a minute, we have Fort Valley State, which also has an agriculture program. We want them to get a contract like that as well, guaranteeing that over the lifetime of this medicinal marijuana, they could receive up to $1 billion for an HBCU, which is unheard of.
Wow.
The reality is we want the economic opportunities when people receive jobs and contracts for their businesses. They perform differently, they act differently, they join the class of Sherrie Washington, those rich folk, and they can do better as a result. As Tupac Shakur used to say, it feels good to pay the rent when the rent is due.
Right.
And the reality is we want to be able to make sure that our community receives some of the benefits of those kinds of policy making, which we're all in a position to do.
Absolutely, absolutely. So what would you say to one to educate themselves? Educate themselves more on the topic, educate themselves.
We got a teacher in here. What's the teacher has to say?
I think events like this are very helpful. I think I'm the candidate here. All of you have been elected. And so I'm like, there's a part of me that's like, oh, y'all are where I hope to be. But I think things like this are super important because you get the opportunity to hear different perspectives on the same issues, different voices, get a feel for the person's personality, because I think these forums have been great to get a feel for how people actually are to work with in ways that you don't learn on paper from reading. So I think, obviously going to people's websites, staying on top of the news. I personally look at the BBC News a lot because I like to look at the BBC's, writing first and then come back and look at our US version of it in different places. So I like how they write about the US news. And so things like that, where we just kind of expose yourself. But most importantly, after this election, after November, I think it's time for everybody to get serious about what role they want to play going forward in really doing some of this work and getting connected personally. I'm a party person, so getting involved in the political party, you know, getting involved in the day-to-day, get your hands on some of this work, because I think the greatest education is a front row seat. So get in here, and it's a lot harder to be critical up close. When you're doing the work, then you can see, oh, maybe that's why things are the way they are, or maybe that's why we can't get this done, or maybe that's why this relationship is so important. You know, so I think that the best education after we all vote and serve and volunteer and do all that is to really get involved.
And on that note too, do your homework and then allow all the candidates as well as people that are in office some grace, because there's no perfect people. Look at what people stand for and what most align with your values. So often people say, you know, whether they support this thing, this one thing, I'm not going to vote for him or her. And then, you know, in something else, they will. You have to do your homework, and sometimes you have to weigh. And it's not the lesser of two evils, because we're not evil, but you have to weigh what's close to your heart. What does that person have that will help you move forward and to help others? You know, do they have integrity? Are they economically sound? What are they speaking about? How are they going to help our communities? You know, you can have someone who's for one thing, but they're totally against something else. So do your homework. And like soon to be Senator Jones, one of the things that she said too was that, you know, you have to go to the candidates' websites and you have to look and then do your own research and figure out how can I help them. So don't just like vote. We want you to vote, but we want you to come out and help the candidates and to help to be that voice that spreads the news about the issues. Positive, not missing. We don't want you to spread misinformation now. Truth.
I tell people all the time, I probably would have been a Rhodes Scholar had I had Google going like while I was doing anything, even college, law school. I think Google was just now getting started when I was in law school. But even the referendums, I'm about to call them bond referendums, that you know that I've been a county commissioner too long. But
it's all good.
Of the referendums that are on the ballot, do your research. I will say that Top Ladies of Distinction, we're going to have a webinar on October the 17th where I will be personally discussing the different referendums and what they mean. And, you know, I'm not giving any recommendations, but we're going over them. But these things, these are constitutional amendments. I think there's at least 2 constitutional amendments that are on the ballot. And for you to vote for them or against them, you need to at least be educated on what they are. You talked about when you do a constitutional amendment, that's amending the very contract that you have with the state of Georgia. Is it that important that you would like to amend it that way? So doing your research with Google or however you can do it is so vitally important. And I think it's almost our civic responsibility to do that also.
That's right, to educate yourself. Thank you all for that. Thank you all for that. I want to come back to Ms. Jones. Can you tell us why you're seeking office? Why you're looking to run for office?
Yes, thank you. So, I mean, I'm running because I want to see more compassion in politics. I mean, that's really the bottom line. I want to see more progressive people of faith stepping up to serve as elected officials. I think we need balance in our legislatures. I think we need balance in the conversation about what faith in public life looks like. And I just think that as a former educator, I know that when people have resources and tools and someone standing in front of them who actually believes the best and wants the best for them, that all people can thrive. We are all born dependent. And our success, us sitting here today, is because of a lot of hands and hearts and resources and time and energy that has been invested in us. And I want to be that and help to be a part of a group of people who want that for everybody in our state. And so that's why I'm running. I care about a lot of things. And so a lot of my campaigning, I talk about values, I talk about compassion, I talk about courage, because I think a lot of the issues that we're dealing with are a direct result of our American history. And we have got to tell this story fully. We have to tell this story from multiple perspectives, so that we can really understand some of the policy issues and problems that we have to address today. And then integrity, I just think that there's a heart to this work, and we need the service and public service to be elevated again. And so for me, that drives me, the compassion, the courage, the integrity, that drives me. And I care about a lot of different issues. I care about homelessness. You know, every single legislator on their way to the Capitol has to pass people sleeping on the street next to empty buildings. My soul does not like that. And so I think we have to prioritize the unsheltered. I care about healthcare because it's the most basic fundamental thing to be in good health. And not to take our health for granted, but also to recognize at any point in time, anything could happen to any of us. That's not a fault of our own. And you know, I strongly desire for people to have health care. I care about wages and making sure that if people are willing to work and an honest, you know, 40-hour living, you know, 40-hour week, and that people can afford housing for their family, that they can afford to get to and from work, that they can afford, you know, the things that would put them on a path to, you know, long-term success and self-sufficiency. So, you know, I care about a lot of different things, but at the end of the day, you know, I am motivated by faith to serve and to care for those around me. You know, we talked about being called for a time such as this. I also believe, you know, of course, to whom much is given, much is required. That's real to me. And so I don't take it for, you know, granted, and I don't take it as small that I've had lots of opportunity and lots of people invested in me. And so my hope is to do the same thing and to use that seat in a way that can be, you know, beneficial in the long term for all Georgians, not just the people in my district.
All right, amazing, awesome. So
can I say one thing,
Yes,
Dr. Mohair?
Yes,
one thing about running for office that I think that Dr. Mitchell and Commissioner Marlene and I know is that you can have all the best intention, but if you don't have any money to get the signs or the advertisement or anything out, then, you know, not a lot of people hear your voice, unless you like Representative Mitchell and you've been, you know, you just a household word and everybody knows you already. So he might not have the same issues that I do. But Matilyn, if you could please give me your information on your finance committee so that I can make a donation, I would like to do that. So,
thank you so much. And I can share it here. It's and I will also send it to you.
That was my next. Go ahead.
Thank you. It's www.matilynjones.com. And my Matilyn is MATIELYN Jones. I'm named after my grandmother, who is Maddie. And so that's where that spelling came from. My mom dropped one of the T's and, you know, added the LYN. And so it's Matilyn with a T. MatilynJones.com. And of course, I'm on Facebook, I'm on Instagram, I'm on Twitter, but not really.
Representative Mitchell.
You know, I tell you, you know, if I had a teacher like a soon-to-be Senator Jones, I could have made something out of myself. I hope that you do very, very well. And, you know, we certainly need more women in public office. And you know, someone asked me, I was being interviewed not too long ago, and someone asked me, how come there aren't more women in public office? And I'm convinced that's because women are smarter than men. They don't like the giving up their personal freedom, their privacy for little wages, and oftentimes little appreciation. So women have got this thing figured out. You know, it reminds me of a true story. Do I have Dr. Jackie Mohair? Do I have time to tell you a little quick story?
Yes, you do. Go ahead.
Reminds me of a true story. I was speaking near my wife's hometown out of state. And as it happened, she said, while we're here, let's drive around my old neighborhood. Sure enough, we had got to a part of town that had seen its better day. And there, standing on the corner, was a man who was ragged and torn and unkept, seemed to me to be under the addiction of something. My wife tapped me on the shoulder and said, "You won't believe this, but he used to be my old boyfriend."
Oh,
You know how we men are. I stuck my chest out. I adjusted my tie. I said, "See, darling, you stuck with me and I've taken you all the way to the Capitol." She said, "You don't understand. Had I still been with him, he'd be at the Capitol.
right.
And based on how much I've had to work with you, then you would have been standing on somebody's corner." So you women have got it together.
And I believe that about Sean too.
Absolutely. Better than I deserve. So you women do a wonderful job, and we need more of your perspective in the legislature and in the county commissions, in the city halls and Congress, and even in the presidency one day, where we can really get some things done with a different perspective.
Well, thank you, Representative Mitchell. Thank you all tonight for an amazing panel tonight. You all were amazing. I want to ask if do you have any closing words that you would like to share, and share with everyone how they can get in contact with you?
Well, I just wanted to say my seat isn't up to 2022, but with it, one of the things I want to make sure that I state is that whatever I'm doing it because I'm listening to the residents. I really am listening to them. I tell them repeatedly, I heard you. Some of the changes that we move forward in, it's because they have spoken. So yes, we have our plans, and yes, we follow, our priorities, but if our residents don't speak to us, then it's like we're doing it amiss. And so I don't want to do that. And so when I came in the office, my tagline back then was, I was an ordinary citizen that would leave with extraordinary results. And that's what we've been doing, but it's not me, it's us. And we're doing that one by one, whatever the issue may be. And, in the community, sometimes we don't move as fast as they would like, but nevertheless, change is happening. And so I encourage people to stay involved, get involved. People can the residents of Gwinnett County, they find me, but I'm at marlene.fosque@gwinnettcounty.com. I love being a commissioner. It's so much work, but when you get out in the community, even with COVID, just be safe and be sensible about it. It makes a difference when you listen to somebody's issues and challenges, and then you do something to help them, because that's what it's about. We care. One of my good friends always say that we are representatives, but the people elected us. And so we got to show that we do care about all of our constituents. So that's me. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner.
You're welcome.
For me, I'll just be quick and say, please vote early. That is my hope, is that everybody will vote by October 30th. That's my personal wish, that everybody would vote early in some way, form, or fashion, so that election day we can have as few issues to mitigate as possible. And if you know anybody who lives in Northern Gwinnett near the Mall of Georgia, please send them to my website, and I would love to have your support. So thank you.
Will do. Thank you. Commissioner, Ms.
Um,
Watson.
Yes, first of all, I would like to reiterate, Ms. Jones, please vote. You don't have to vote early for me, just vote. Just get out there and vote. Also, understand that it is something that people, if it weren't so important, then people wouldn't try to take it from you. So it is that important that you get out and vote, and teach your children how to vote. We vote as a family. Like, that's very important to me, that all of us, my daughter, my niece, and I have pictures of my grandson when he was in utero, going with my daughter to vote. Like, it's that important to my family. And it should be that important to everybody's family. So go vote, go often, take somebody with you to vote, make it fun, make it exciting. Just do it. Like the Nike symbol.
Just do it. Just do it. Well, we're at the end of the hour. I want to thank each and every one of you all for.
Wait a minute, the dean didn't say anything.
Who's the dean? Yeah, didn't I say enough?
Go ahead and close us out.
You know, let me say, just make sure that all the viewers go out that can vote for soon-to-be Senator Jones and Commissioner Washington. Please do so. You know, when I was in law school, what appealed to me about public office was when I learned that the only people in this country that create public policy are elected officials. That's the way the founders of our country designed our government. And there are others who influence public policy. There are those who execute public policy, interpret public policy, but the only people that create public policy are elected officials. And it's a duty that we all should take sovereign, whether we're elected officials or those who cast our votes. Once again, Dr. Jacqueline Mohair, I appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Mohair.
I appreciate you all. Thank you all for taking time out to be on here tonight. It is truly an honor and a pleasure to meet with you all and to just share with the world your heart and the importance of voting. Everyone get out and vote. And if you would like, we need you to register to vote. You can go to www.standandvote.com. www.standandvote.com and get registered. All right, well, we've come to the end of our show, and we want to make sure that you be sure to follow us on all our social media sites. Tune in next week as we continue this discussion. Yes, go ahead.
That if there's any conflicts on the day of election or when you vote, please contact the Voter Protection Hotline. And the number before was 1-888-730-5816. But definitely contact the Voter Protection Hotline if there's any challenges that you face on election.
Great point.
Please do. Please make sure that you contact the hotline. And again, thank you for joining us tonight. Follow us on all our social media sites. We will be back here on Empowered Mondays on next Monday to continue the discussion. And we look forward to seeing you then. Bye for now, everybody.
Bye.